I divorced my wife. At 65, here is why. It's never too late. I divorced my wife at 65. When I say that out loud, people assume there must have been a scandal, a betrayal, a younger woman, a secret I had been hiding. They look at me with that mixture of curiosity and quiet judgment, as if I dismantled something sacred for selfish reasons. But there was no affair, no dramatic fight, no single explosion that tore us apart. What ended my marriage was silence, 40 years of it. We married young, not recklessly, but quickly. It felt like the right progression. We were compatible on paper, responsible, practical. We wanted stability. We wanted a house, children, a predictable future. Love was there in the beginning, of course. Not cinematic love, but steady affection. We respected each other. Respect can carry a marriage a long way, but it cannot replace intimacy. In the early years, we were busy building careers, routines, a home. The silence didn't feel like distance then. It felt like efficiency. We didn't argue much. We didn't challenge each other much either. We agreed on most things because neither of us pushed very hard for anything different. Harmony is easy when no one is asking difficult questions. As the children grew, our conversations narrowed. Logistics replaced curiosity. We spoke about schedules, bills, school events, groceries. We became partners in management, coordinators of a shared life. It looked stable from the outside. Inside, something was thinning. There's a particular kind of loneliness that only exists inside long marriages. It's not the loneliness of being alone. It's the loneliness of being unseen by the one person who has watched your entire adulthood unfold. We stopped asking each other who we were becoming. We stopped checking in emotionally. We told ourselves that this was maturity, that romance fades, that comfort replaces excitement, that companionship is enough. And for many years, it was. But comfort can quietly turn into numbness if you're not careful. I began noticing how little of myself I expressed at home, not because I was afraid, but because it felt unnecessary. We already knew each other, or at least we believed we did. There was no tension, no drama, just a steady, predictable rhythm. Predictability feels safe, until you realize it has replaced growth. By the time I turned 60, something shifted. Retirement conversations began. Friends were downsizing, traveling, reinventing themselves. There was a subtle awareness in the air that time was finite now, that chapters were closing. I looked at my wife across the dinner table one evening and felt something I couldn't immediately name. Not anger, not resentment, distance, the kind that doesn't shout, the kind that simply exists. I asked her quietly, "Are you happy?" She paused, not offended, not defensive, just paused. "I think so," she said. Think. That word echoed in me for days. I realized I didn't know the answer for myself either. We had built a life that worked, but I couldn't remember the last time it felt alive. That's a terrifying realization at 65, because at that age, people expect you to be grateful, settled, appreciative of stability. They don't expect you to question the foundation of a 4-decade marriage, but I couldn't ignore it anymore. I wasn't miserable. I was absent, present physically, absent emotionally. I started imagining the next 20 years unfolding exactly like the last 10. The same routines, the same conversations, the same polite coexistence. And for the first time, the thought didn't feel comforting. It felt suffocating. In the next thread, I will tell you about the conversation that changed everything, and why walking away at 65 felt both terrifying and necessary. The conversation didn't happen all at once. It built slowly, like pressure behind a closed door. For weeks after I asked her if she was happy, I carried the question inside myself. I began noticing things I had ignored for years. The way we moved around each other in the kitchen without touching. The way we filled silence with television instead of words. The way we went to bed at different times and woke up with separate routines. We were not hostile. We were efficient. That's what frightened me. Hostility at least carries energy. It means something still matters enough to ignite conflict. Efficiency means you've streamlined emotion out of the relationship entirely. One evening, I turned off the television mid-program. That small action alone felt rebellious. She looked at me, surprised. "Can we talk?" I asked. She hesitated. "About what?" "About us." I hadn't used those words in years. She sat back down slowly. I could see the apprehension in her eyes, not fear, but discomfort. We had trained ourselves not to disrupt stability. "I feel like we're roommates," I said. The words hung there. She didn't deny it. She didn't argue. She simply nodded, almost imperceptibly. That nod hurt more than any accusation could have, because it meant she knew too. We spoke carefully at first, as if we were discussing someone else's marriage. We used neutral language. Phase. Adjustment. Long-term comfort. But eventually, the truth surfaced. We had not grown apart dramatically. We had grown parallel. Two lines moving forward, close enough to appear connected, but never intersecting again. I asked her when the last time was that she felt truly seen by me. She couldn't answer. She asked me the same. I couldn't answer either. That silence was different from the ones before. It wasn't numb. It was honest. We talked about the early years, about who we were when we met, ambitions, fears, curiosity. Somewhere along the way, we had traded curiosity for predictability. We stopped exploring each other. We became known quantities. At 25, that feels stable. At 65, it feels final. And I wasn't ready for final. That's the part people struggle to understand. I wasn't chasing youth. I wasn't trying to reinvent myself recklessly. I was confronting the reality that if I stayed, this would be the emotional landscape for the rest of my life. And that realization made my chest tighten. She surprised me that night. "I've been thinking about this too," she said. Her voice wasn't angry. It was tired. She admitted she had felt invisible for years. Not mistreated, not unloved. Invisible. Like a fixture in a life that functioned smoothly but without depth. We had both mistaken absence of conflict for success. We cried that night, not because of betrayal, because of recognition. Recognition that we had slowly disappeared from each other. For months after that conversation, we tried. We went to counseling. We scheduled dinners out. We attempted vulnerability. And in those attempts, something else became clear. The affection was real. The history was real. But the romantic bond had dissolved quietly a long time ago. We were kind to each other. We were not alive with each other. One afternoon in the counselor's office, she said something that sealed it. "I don't want to spend my last chapter feeling half awake." Half awake. That phrase landed heavily. I had been half awake too. The decision didn't happen in anger. It happened in clarity. We realized that staying together out of habit, history, or fear of judgment would be another form of silence. And silence had already cost us decades of emotional presence. Still, choosing divorce at 65 felt like stepping off a cliff. There is a weight to ending something that long. Shared memories, shared friends, shared identity. We weren't just separating finances, we were untangling 40 years of narrative. People reacted predictably. Why now? After all this time? Can't you just stay comfortable? Comfort. That word again. Comfort had nearly put me to sleep for good. The day I moved out, there was no shouting, no slammed doors, no broken plates, just boxes, quiet footsteps. A moving truck idling outside like an indifferent witness. 40 years reduced to labeled cardboard. We stood in the hallway for a long time before I left. Not touching, not dramatic, Just two people acknowledging the end of something that had once felt permanent. She said, "I hope you find what you're looking for." I almost told her I didn't know what that was, but I did. Aliveness. That's what I was looking for. The first night alone was not liberating. It was terrifying. The silence in my new apartment felt sharper than any silence in my marriage. There was no shared history in those walls, no familiar creaks, no routines, just space. And in that space, doubt arrived immediately. Had I made a mistake? Had I confused restlessness with necessity? Had I abandoned something good in search of something undefined? These questions don't whisper. They shout when you're alone. For weeks, I moved through my days like someone recovering from surgery, tender, exposed. Every routine had to be rebuilt from scratch. I cooked for one. I shopped for one. I made decisions without consultation. At 65, you are not just changing circumstances. You are confronting mortality. Every choice feels heavier, because you know there are fewer decades left to experiment. Friends divided quietly. Some supported me privately but kept distance publicly. Others treated me like I had committed an unforgivable act. There is a cultural expectation that long marriages should endure no matter what, as if longevity itself equals success. But endurance without vitality is not success, it's survival. And I was tired of surviving inside my own life. The loneliness in the beginning was real. I won't romanticize it. There were evenings when I missed the comfort of another presence in the room. Even if we weren't speaking, even if we weren't deeply connected. Habit is powerful. Familiarity is soothing. But slowly something else began to surface. Silence changed. It stopped feeling like absence. It started feeling like possibility. I began asking myself questions I hadn't asked in decades. What do I enjoy now? Not what did I enjoy at 30? Not what is respectable at 65? What actually moves me today? I tried things awkwardly. Classes, travel, conversations with people who didn't know my history. At first I felt self-conscious, like a man out of sync with his age. But gradually I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Curiosity. Not about escaping aging, about inhabiting it. I discovered that it's never too late to change your emotional environment. But it is late. That distinction matters. The cost of staying asleep increases over time, but the possibility of waking up never disappears completely. My ex-wife and I speak occasionally. There is no hostility between us. In fact, there is more honesty now than there was in the last decade of our marriage. We acknowledge that we did our best with the tools we had. We raised good children. We built stability. We simply stopped evolving together. And evolution cannot be forced. People still ask if I regret it. Some days I regret the pain it caused, the disruption, the uncertainty. But I do not regret the decision. Because for the first time in a long time, I feel present. Not thrilled every day, not euphoric, but awake. Awake to my own preferences, my own limits, my own remaining time. Divorcing at 65 was not an act of rebellion. It was an act of honesty, an admission that longevity alone is not enough, that staying married should not mean staying numb. That comfort can quietly suffocate the soul if you let it. It's never too late to change. But waiting too long comes with consequences. You will face judgment, doubt, loneliness, fear. You will question yourself in ways that are deeply uncomfortable. And yet, the alternative is worse. Living the final chapter half awake. I chose disruption over quiet resignation. I chose uncertainty over predictable emptiness. I chose to feel something again, even if it meant feeling alone at times. I divorced my wife at 65, not because I stopped loving her, but because I stopped recognizing myself. And I decided that whatever time I have left, I want to live it fully conscious, not comfortable, conscious.